Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Today we have Dr. Nancy Zare, Ph.D. She is from Framingham, and she is the CEO of Rapport Builderz International. Welcome.
Thank you, Jan.
Now, in a nutshell, what do you do with Rapport International? What do you do?
Well, you know how people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust? Well, before you even start to know somebody, you want to feel like, we're alike.
Yeah.
And I help people raise their AlikeAbility quotient, 300%.
I love it. I love it. And how did you get into this?
I got into it because I've kind of been a psychologist my whole life. You know, when I was a little girl at 5 years old, I snuck down from the second floor just where my parents couldn't see me, but I could hear everything. And
you were a wall listener?
Oh my goodness. I would listen in, and so I knew the goods, the scoop on everything.
Yeah.
I was fascinated by human behavior.
Yeah, me too. How can I say? I like to participate in it, but I could sit by and watch it. Could you pick up on cues easily?
Exactly. I learned how to pick up on cues. I was the third child, the first girl, and it was a fairly chaotic situation with a lot of, discordance in the family. And the funny thing is that here I was at 5 years old, and Mom said what she said, and Dad said what he said, and they didn't seem to understand each other, but I could translate each one to the other. Yeah. And that was who I was. I was somewhat of a peacekeeper and a translator, and definitely somebody who was very savvy about the signals and cues going on interpersonally.
That's a lot on a child's shoulders.
You may be right, but I think God gifted me that way.
Were you like in the middle? You said you were the
No,
third.
I was the final child. They quit after that. The mold broke.
Okay. So you were the baby.
I was.
And you were the one who was
And the only girl.
And the only girl. And you were. Yeah, I was the only girl growing up. The grandchildren, my brother. I was it.
And I grew up in a family where, frankly, boys were prized more than girls.
I think that, yeah.
Okay, it is that generation, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of looking around thinking, well, where's my place in this family?
Yeah.
The oldest brother turned out to be extremely bright. He's gone on to win the National Medal of Science, which President Reagan awarded to him at the White House. I was there to watch. And my second brother turned out he was got double master's degrees in English, humanities, language arts. So, it's like one was science, one was humanities. Where was I going to go? Yeah. And as it turned out, psychology kind of is a blend.
It was a natural for you.
Yeah.
I could pick up on my father's cues when he was getting angry. He wouldn't yell, he didn't scream. All I had to do was go like this, right behind his neck. I'm like, whoa. Whoa. I didn't need anything more.
Yeah.
No, there was no hitting, there was no yelling. It's just this movement. I'm like, okay, he's frustrated. But my brother didn't. He was the opposite. He antagonized him. I was enough. I think, I don't think so.
Right.
I'm going to play my cards right.
Right.
No.
Right.
So how did you get into your business?
So down the road, what happened is that fast forward, I did get my master's in social work and a doctorate eventually.
Where'd you go, Nancy?
I went to Boston College for both master's and doctorate, and Boston University for undergrad. Let's give the Boston colleges a plug because they're excellent schools. Yeah. So I was in the Boston area, and I had a position in which I was marketing social work programs for corporate America. And I have to tell you that I didn't know much about sales. So I was listening to tapes and I was reading books, and I was one of those people that once I found a prospect, I just grabbed hold and wouldn't let go because I thought that's what sales was. You had to twist their arm until they cried uncle and they bought from you. Well, obviously...
that's hard sell. That doesn't work.
No. So my success was mediocre, but I was very much wanting to learn. And that's when I got exposed to personality types. And you may be aware that there are programs like DISC, Myers-Briggs.
This Myers-Briggs, Dad had that.
Okay.
He did it. He tested my mom and me.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. I thought, I don't know if I want Dad to be that savvy to who I am, but I did it for the heck of it.
Uh-huh. Well, there are colors, animals, shapes. There are so many different systems.
Yeah.
Well, the system that I came across fairly recently is a system called Bank, B-A-N-K.
I'm ready.
And when you learn Bank, you're going to cash in and take it to the
Bank.
Hence, it's very easy to remember, easy to learn. It's an acronym. So here's the scoop. Jan, I'm going to hand you some cards.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you to put them in order from what's most like you on top to what's least like you in the bottom. It saves time, allows me to serve you better, and we're going to learn something about you.
Oh boy. Okay.
So now these cards for the viewers contain values. Each one has different values. There are about 12 words on the cards.
Can you see these guys at all? Yeah, they're cards, and I'm going to pick what I value the most and what I value the least. They have little traits that you can see on each card that are important to you, and the least important to you. So I'm going to take the plunge here and be very brave, and you guys may not like what you hear. So
it takes about 60 to 90 seconds, depending on the person. So
Take your time, we got all day.
Okay, so you can keep talking while I'm doing this. Go back to company. Go ahead.
Okay, so the cards contain different values on them, and the whole idea of Bank is that the most common mistake that people make when they're in a sales or an influencing situation is that whatever your own dominant type is, you tend to speak from and promote from that type. And I say this is a common mistake because there are 4 types of people. Hippocrates, back in the centuries ago, identified 4 different physiological types, and that's been substantiated over time. In fact, there are even neurochemical and hormonal differences between the 4 types.
Okay.
Look how quick that was that she figured it out. So she's going to hand me back the cards, and this doesn't surprise me. Her first one is A for action.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Action people. Now, the reason I like Bank is because the words themselves immediately tell us about you. So, action. You know right away, this is a high dynamic, high driven, energetic. She's a woman on fire. So if you haven't watched the show before, you don't know Jan. But Jan's got energy to boot. They tend to have louder voices. Because they don't mind calling attention to themselves, because another A word. Now, some people will use the word aggressive when they describe an action person, because that also comes across. A also stands for a little bit of ADD. They are a person who go very broad. They love lots of things to learn. Mm-hmm. And so they just tend to absorb a lot of little pieces of information. Quick decision makers, bottom line people, impulsive buyers, and frankly, you can upsell Jan.
What's that mean?
Upsell means that she's come to the store and she wants to buy 1 bouquet. This is a woman who will buy a huge bouquet or 4 bouquets because more is better. She's laughing. Now that laugh is recognition.
Oh. Well, the thing is, I've had to dumb it down for budget, but if I could, you got it.
Okay.
If I could. I've had to really rein it in.
Okay. And budget, meaning that somebody in the family, I'm guessing could be hubby or some other person, has said, guess what, purse strings, we got to watch. Now, her second code, and this is very typical, because many women, this is their first code, N for nurturing. Okay, so the N in Bank stands for nurturing. Nurturing people are warm. They care about people. They care about causes. They are the ones who are going to save the world. Relationships above everything. Very charitable people. Charitable not as much with money as with time.
Oh, bingo.
Okay?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a spiritual component to nurturing people, etc. And one of the most important values for a nurturing person is authenticity. Okay, they are very genuine people. It's very important that they connect heart to heart.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can tell a nurturing person because they tend to be a little bit softer. Notice I've slowed down the speed of which I'm talking. My voice has gotten warmer, etc. They take time. They want to chit chat. They want to get to know you. That's her second code. Third code, blueprint. Now, blueprint is that budget-minded person.
Yeah.
When you think of a blueprint, you think of actual blueprints for a building.
Yeah.
And a blueprint for the building has to be dialed in. It has to be precise, exact, and measured. So these are people who are very controlled, very measured. They follow the rules.
But that's at least the third one, I think.
I know. This is in direct opposition to your first code of
follow
action.
the rules? No, I'm more of a...
See, action people, it's about freedom. They don't like to work for anybody. They're all about themselves. Right?
Entrepreneur, yeah.
Very entrepreneurial.
Oh.
They make, by the way, the best salespeople, action people. Blueprints are the second best salespeople. Why? Because they actually will follow the system. And if you tell them that you're going to make 20 calls and this is how you do it, they'll do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be my secretary.
Oh, and you know what? We all need a blueprint in our life.
Yeah.
If we aren't the blueprint, because these people are super organized, they're very managerial, and they also have tremendous responsibility.
My mother was like that. I was in debt. I was a young girl, and she sat me down and she said, "This is what we're going to do. Each bill." She got me out of debt.
Yeah, there you go.
She made me. This is what you're going to pay this month. This and this. Oh, it worked.
Yeah, and fortunately you followed it.
Yeah, I had to.
Yeah. And her last code is knowledge, K for knowledge.
The techie stuff I saw in there.
Exactly. This is the geek, this is the brainiac, this is the person who values learning above everything. They go deep into subject matters, whereas the action person went broad, this person goes deep.
And that's the last one I chose.
Right.
I like learning, but when you get into all the technical stuff and everything, no.
And this is an information junkie. They are like a sponge absorbing facts and figures and data, and they want research. Now, of all the 4 types, this is the one that you can't sell. But actually, you really can't sell anybody. People want to buy, they don't want to be sold.
Yeah.
However, that when the knowledge person tells you, I've got to think it over, Jan, they mean I've got to think it over.
It looks like procrastination to us.
This is the person that needs 5, 10 times, touching them, giving them information. I don't mean physically touching, because they're not touchy-feely people. They're very cerebral, kind of cool, logical folks, etc. But they need a lot of data. They almost want to become the expert in order for them to buy whatever it is they're buying. But once they make a choice, they can dig in and they can be driven. And the rest of us, if we're smart enough, we follow in their footsteps because they did the homework.
Is that something like Ralph Nader?
Yes, somewhat, and now he's a combination of nurturing and knowledge because he's passionate about causes, and at the same time he goes deep into the subject matter. But he also has a lot of action because this was no person who was in the sidelines. Nurturing and knowledge people tend to be behind the scenes. Action people are out front. They want the red carpet rolled out. They're your athletes, your celebrities, your professional speakers, and of course sales folks.
Well, I think that is amazing. I think my father would have scored that too.
Yeah, so notice in just a very quick amount of time.
You got to know me a little bit.
Not only did I get to know you, which is important, because now I know that if I were to be selling you something, Jan, I want to talk about the excitement, the sizzle. I want to get you all riled up about it because that's how you buy. Secondly, I want to appeal to your sense of caring about people and how this is going to be supporting a cause. That'll really get the wallet to open. I want to stay away from boring information, the fine print. This is not a woman who wants the details, okay? And by knowing this, right away, I've got an edge. Now, one of the good things, Jan, is I know how to do this when I walk into a room full of strangers.
You know how to do it even before you give them the cards.
Exactly. I can scan the room for how people are dressed, what kinds of jewelry or accessories they're wearing. I can also look at, again, their energy, their movements. Of course, I can hear them, I can hear the pace of their talking, the excitement in their voice, or their quietness, etc. And all of these are clues as to what their personality code is. So based on that, I know how to greet that person. You see, the action person wants to do a high five, and if they could, it's a knuckle bump even with flares, right? They are into action.
Yeah.
Okay, the nurturing person, which is your second code, now they'll shake a hand.
Yeah, and I'll go like this.
Exactly. They put a second hand over
I
here,
do this.
even on their shoulder.
Yeah.
The more connection they can get,
Yes,
the better.
I do.
Okay.
Oh, you are amazing.
Okay, and now the blueprint is a formal handshake like this.
Yeah.
Look in the eyes, and they're over with it. I mean, it's done, right?
right.
That they do the perfunctory 2 seconds, whatever it is, and they're over.
That's your executive secretary.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah.
And the knowledge person, they don't offer a hand.
No, I noticed it. A little bit standoffish.
That's right. They are standoffish. See, even you have figured this out without the
I
psychology.
know who I'm comfortable with. We'll put it that way.
If they could, their minds greet your minds, almost like Dr. Spock. You know, Mr.
Oh!
Spock, okay?
Yep.
Like, okay, I
Yeah.
greet you, etc.
Yeah, yeah.
When they shake your hand, when you, it's that fishy handshake.
Exactly. I was just going to say it's wishy-washy.
Yeah, they will accept your hand.
But it's kind of,
But it's like, I'd really rather not.
and that is repulsive. I got to admit, repulsive to me.
It is to many of the codes. Now, depending upon what their second code is, they may, again, like if it's a knowledge nurturing person, they might be warmer about it. Okay? Knowledge action, it's going to be quick because they want to get it over with, right? Move on, bottom line, let's go. A knowledge blueprint, they'll probably do the perfunctory shake. But their eyes will turn away. They really don't want the eye contact.
That is fascinating because I find a lot of people, you know, if you're going, when you talked about networking, you're going to a networking group. I've been to a number of them, and well, besides the booze, you know that I'm not going to remember what you said the next day. I try to hone in on the ones who are, I'll maybe put their glass down and are really listening to me, and I can listen to them. But when they're not looking at you, what is it with the person who is talking to you, but their eyes are going everywhere?
Yeah, they're
What is
scanning
that?
elsewhere. Well, part of that is the action person.
But that's me,
Because
but
the
I don't
action
do it.
person doesn't want to miss anything. Well, you have nurturing as your second code.
Yeah.
So if it's an action blueprint or an action knowledge, they're off to the next thing. What else can I learn? Who else is there? What can I do?
Yeah.
And you're not all that interesting now that I know your name. And you know what I'm saying?
But if they're not looking at me, I figure, why bother?
Well, and again, that's your nurturing side that's picked up on that because you want connections.
Definitely. I
Yeah.
mean, I can sense if they're just hearing their own voice speak. That is irritating because you could, what is wrong with you? I'm right here.
Well, remember, your second code is nurturing. Authenticity, connection, genuineness, ethics, morality, harmony. These are big things for you. They may not be your first code, but they're your second, and so they plug in when you're meeting somebody.
I don't know you, but what would you say you are?
Do you want to give a guess?
Action's in there.
Yeah,
Definitely.
action is definitely in there, and I've certainly come out, right?
I don't see you as being the techie, the introvert at all.
Okay, interesting.
So I would say you are in the same placement I am, one way or the other, the nurturing or the action. Am I right?
Perfect. And it's funny, Jan, that you should perceive that because I seem to attract, and you probably attract people that are like-coded.
It's rare. Maybe if I was a lot younger back in school, it would have worked better. But I find most of the gals my age are not super action-oriented. They're thinking of starting a whole new career. I'm like, so try it already. No, it's this living in a box, and it's tough for someone who is more out there, thinks out of the box.
Now, you mentioned that you didn't think I was introverted.
No.
And I actually was very shy. And I learned very quickly when I scanned, business settings, etc., that to be shy and to be a wallflower doesn't work so well in business. Now, socially, I remained very shy. But business, I put myself out there. And for the listening audience, I want to give them a tip on how to go to a networking event and be successful.
Okay, go, give it to me.
Here's the tip. The tip is you pretend that you're the host or hostess.
Oh, I love that.
It's your event.
Yeah.
I don't care whose event it is, the Chamber's event, or any business network, or a social gathering. Pretend even that that you're the person throwing the party. And as the party giver, isn't it my responsibility to help my guests feel at home, be my guest? So what I do is hey, Jan, who are you? Who would you like to meet? And because I am meeting lots of people,
Then you work it.
yeah, Jan, let me have you meet Harry over here.
I love that.
And so if you pretend to be the host or the hostess, if it's first of all, for the person who's introverted, it gives you a job to do.
Yeah.
So it gives you role and a responsibility. So right away you can get out of yourself in order to perform that duty. And then because I'm now going to help you meet others, again, it's not about me, so I don't have to play, my horn. I don't have to blow my horn. Instead, I can help you.
Because you've already met somebody that you're going to introduce them to. And so they find, in the end, it's kind of like one of those chains. Oh, how did you meet? So, well, Jan introduced me. That's what you're saying. Just pass it on.
And even if it's let's say I know 0 people at that group. I know nobody, okay?
Yeah.
And you're the very first person I've spoken with. That's okay, Jan, because I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to keep in mind who you're looking for, and believe it or not, within 2 or 3 other people, I'll probably circle back to say, Jan, I want you to meet so-and-so.
That makes so much sense. We're talking with Dr. Nancy Zare, Ph.D. She's the CEO of Rapport Builderz International. Now I know what the title meant.
That's right. Rapport Builders is all about building rapport, because when you build rapport, you're more likely to do business with each other.
Exactly. And you mentioned something very important, trust. Because I have dealt with people that, let's put it this way, I wouldn't take a check from. It's going to be cash, because I'm not going to get to the bank and it doesn't clear. Now, there may be a really good person.
Sure.
But I can separate it. Like, I love you, but don't pay me in a check again. You can give me cash, because I had a heck of a time in the bank with your check, and I haven't got time for that. I become more this way as I get older. Mm-hmm. It's odd, because I wasn't a type A. I don't think I'm a type A, but I wasn't this as much when I was a kid growing up. I was around it. My father was in broadcasting and sales, and he was a very big impression on me. And Mom was on stage, this type of thing. So I picked up. Did you pick up from your parents?
Yeah, I've done a lot of thinking about that. My parents are passed away, so I'm not able to go back and talk to them. However, I have realized, when I picked up different parts in terms of who I am, and I come by, through my family, of course.
So when somebody wants to call you, what are a lot of the reasons that they call you, get in touch with you?
That's a great question. I work with individuals as well as I do corporate training. And when individual clients consult with me, it's usually because they're looking to increase their ability to build rapport and make sales. When you don't have a second chance to make a first impression.
No.
And if you know the skill of bank, when you go to a networking event, you're able to scan the room and find your ideal prospect. You're able to go up to that ideal prospect and strike up a conversation in the language that's preferred by your prospect. And as a result, your prospect's going to say, wow, Jan, we're alike. Yeah. I like you. Yeah. And now they're willing to walk down the road of know, like, and trust. Because if they don't feel that sense of bond to begin with, they're not even going to walk down the road.
If an individual comes to you, how long are your sessions with them? How long do you go? A couple months? What?
That's a great question. I have different packages for people. Initially, some people would just like a one-session consult. Perhaps they're already working with a client that is challenging to them, and they want to know, how can I close the deal? I've been working with them, but it's not quite going where I want it to. So for that person, we have a one-session consult. For the person, especially the new salesperson, maybe just beginning their career, wow, what an opportunity for them to learn these 4 types, to learn how they can recognize them on site, and to use it when they're at networking groups and in their presentation. Plus, I teach 4 secret questions that when you know these questions will help you have instant rapport with your prospect.
Now, you're in Framingham.
I am, but I do it by Skype and I do it by webinar.
Do you give workshops?
I do.
Okay, where and when? How does that work?
Well, I gave one last night, so periodically I do give workshops, and if people go to my website, they can see the next workshop that will be available.
Will you go just about anywhere?
To do a workshop for expenses?
Okay, and presentations you would do. You might, let's say, if a local library or
yes.
or business group
Sure.
wanted you to go, you would go
Sure.
and give a presentation.
Yes, yes.
Okay, tell the people how they can reach you.
Okay, I'd recommend that they dial me up at area code 508-981-2315. Again, 508-981-2315.
By any chance, have you read Dr. Kevin Lehman's book, The Birth Order Factor?
I am familiar with that.
That is
I'm
pretty
number
cool.
3 child.
I'm the youngest of 2 onlys.
There
He's
you
9 years
go.
older than I am. Nothing.
I have my oldest brother's 8 years older than me. See,
Yeah.
and it makes quite a difference, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, he hated the fact I was even born. Well, he'd been the king.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's not only is it another one, it's a girl.
Yeah.
My mother was over the moon, but.
So was mine.
Oh my God! You know that was it. I was going back.
Yeah.
Back. If I wasn't a girl, it was serious, I guess. But being the youngest, I think you learn a lot from what the oldest does wrong.
Yes.
And he wasn't a peacemaker or interested in keeping the peace. He didn't care. I was the one like, that's not a good way to go.
And again, that is somewhat of the woman's role, a girl's role in a family, because she is expected to be a supportive person in relationships. You know, we raise our sons in order to make a living, and they value themselves based upon their ability to be a provider. But we raise our daughters to be a helpmate and to support somebody else. And so it's their role to nurture a relationship. And because of that, yeah, there are differences in our girls and boys and our young men and
I
women.
saw it right in my family. My mother would be so interested in everybody at the dinner table being taken care of, and if you got enough, it was a sit down, enjoy the. She wouldn't. She was just so busy nurturing other people. And I say, sit. We got along great. We were very opposite. She'd crack up being around me. I said, sit, Mom, sit. You know, I came back from college with a little bit of salty language, and she probably never even heard. But it was a lot of fun being with my mom. She was a good mom, and Dad would bring in the outside world and politics and things like that.
Yeah.
I think that contributes to a person's personality.
Definitely.
I think it really, really does. It's just been great, Nancy. This has been. I mean, I had no idea we were going to do that test on the air, and I think that's a lot of fun.
So, people, if you're selling to Jan, remember, action, nurturing, blueprint knowledge, stay away from details, and increase the options for quick buying and impulse.
No, God. And be a good friend.
Be a good friend.
In closing, I got one last question for you, and I think it drives a lot of us nuts. I was working with a woman who I would send an email with choices of upcoming appearances for her. I might hear a week later. It drove me nuts. She was okay, but I'm like, well, you missed that one, and that one. We got 2 left, and if you really hurry, you can get a table. What do you do? What kind of person?
Knowledge. I know for a fact that person's a knowledge. Anytime I give these cards out to somebody and they take them and then they look at them and they say, well, I can't do this. I'm like this. I'm not. And as soon as they argue with me, of course, that's a knowledge person. Or again, they procrastinate and delay. Huge knowledge. That's definitely knowledge. Now, please don't cast any aspersions on knowledge people, because they're the ones who are creative and inventive and etc.
They're good bean counters, let me tell you.
Well, bean counters are really more your blueprints.
They're the blueprint ones.
Yeah, the knowledge ones are your creative ones.
All right.
Yeah.
So a person could be a combination of all those things.
We have all 4 in us, just like you do.
And that is a fun test. Will you come back?
Absolutely.
Really?
A for absolutely. Ready?
Thank you. And don't forget.
Yep. Shoo.
See you next time. I'll be my guest.
Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me. run through the land.